start the recording. I started the recording, and I'm gonna enable Anna to make a local recording here in just a second. Allow to record to local files. I did that. So we are being recorded in a backup recording. In accordance with the requirements of the open meeting law, please be advised this meeting is being audio video recorded. The agenda lists all the topics which may be discussed at the meeting and those reasonably anticipated by the chair. Votes may be taken as a result of these discussions. Not all items listed may in fact be discussed, and other items not listed may be brought up for discussion to the extent permitted by the open meeting law. Please address all comments to the chair. This meeting of the Conservation Commission is being held by Zoom at the link provided in this notice. The meeting ID is 834-3042-3637. The passcode is 406418. But as always, there is a live one-click link in the agenda, and the agendas are always posted for all town meetings, are posted on the town calendar on the town website. I'm Bob Pease. I'm the chair. We'll just do a roll call. Rich Birch. Well,
Present.
thank you, Rich. Jeff Viviano, I don't see him here. Katie Childs will not be with us. Mike LaRouche.
Present.
Mary Wilson.
Here.
Rich Tremblay.
Present.
Thank you very much. And Anna Petrie is our conservation administrator. Let's see. Are there any announcements from members of the commission? Or public comments from members of the commission? Are there any announcements? Are there any public comments from members of the public? Seeing none, we'll go to our first agenda item, which is minutes of the previous meeting. I sent them out this afternoon with a few track changes. I'm looking for a motion to approve with the track changes.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
A second by Rich. Thank you so much. Roll call. Rich.
Aye.
Mary. Mike.
Aye.
Mary.
Aye.
Rich. Erd.
Aye.
And I for myself. The first thing on our agenda tonight is an appointment hearing with Wendy Gendron. I hope I pronounced that right. Of LSIC. She's here to give the annual update on the LSIC end of the year report. And it was my understanding she'd be all by herself because LSIC had their meeting tonight, but I see Joanna Bellata is also on. So welcome, Joanna.
Thank you. I am. The weather, we had our meeting outside and it was quite windy.
Okay. So Wendy, would you like to share your screen?
Sure.
Let me make sure I have that enabled before you try to do it. Let's see. No, that's not what I want to do. I want to go to security settings. Share screen. I just enabled share screen, Wendy. Now try.
All right. All right, you should see the report title. Do you see that?
We do.
Excellent, great. So my name is Wendy Gendron. I operate a consulting firm, Aquatic Restoration Consulting. I've been working with the Lake Shirley Improvement Corps for several years now, kind of as the independent consultant watching over the lake management activities conducted by the association, the town, and the herbicide applicator. So today I'm here to represent LSIC as their final annual report on the activities that occurred during the fall of winter of 2021 through the fall of 2022. So the first item that I just wanted to discuss, I have really nothing much to show on it other than there's a table of drawdown rates on here. Is I wanted to talk a little bit about the water level monitoring and the winter water level drawdown that they do to control aquatic plants, as well as allow folks to manage their shorelines over the winter to prevent ice damage. So as you know, the permit calls for a target elevation or target drawdown of 6 feet. Unfortunately, this was not achieved this past winter, and it had to do with excessive precipitation that we received in the fall months. We did achieve a maximum target depth of 4.7 feet, but by December 9th, but on average over the drawdown period, it was only about 3.7 feet. So not a real successful year for drawdown on this, but we did not receive any complaints from residents about their water level elevation in their wells. The downstream flows were maintained during this time in accordance with the GEIR, the General Environmental Impact Report created by the state. Our downstream flows during refill were maintained above the referenced 7.0 CFS. So, and refill was completed on March 31st. So accordingly, we maintained complete compliance with the permit and the recommendations by the GEIR this past year. As far as the herbicide treatment, in the report also contains the contractor's report about their pre-treatment surveys, what they've actually performed throughout the summer for aquatic herbicide application, and then their annual results. So the pre-treatment plan was presented and approved by the commission. They did 2 rounds of treatment, and they did that. The first round was on July 27th with a follow-up round on August 23rd. The reason for the split treatment had to do with coordination between the 2 towns. Shirley getting in front of the Shirley Commission versus the Lunenburg Commission, so it was split into 2 different treatment dates. A total of 81 acres were treated using 60 gallons of Diquat. They did not perform any specific fan wart treatment with the use of Clipper this year. They felt that the control that they achieved in the 3 different areas they performed in the past years was still sustained, so they did not use Clipper this past year. Overall, they believe that their treatment was successful. In terms of my annual report, looking over the efficacy and maintenance of native vegetation to ensure habitat value is not lost throughout this process. Overall, we saw consistent cover with past years. Cover is the amount of plant coverage on a 2-dimensional scale, and it was pretty consistent with 2021, but still overall higher than it has been historically. Bio volume was slightly higher in 2022, and bio volume is the volume of plants that occur within a 3-dimensional area. So pretty consistent with the past year, slightly up from some historic rates, but still plenty of cover, plant material, and vegetation out there for aquatic fish habitat, as well as food for waterfowl and other species that rely on aquatic plants for their life sustainability. In terms of species richness, this is a factor of the number of different plant species that were recorded during our plant survey. It was pretty consistent with last year at about 17 to 20 different species of plants, if you include the non-natives or what we call the target species that we're trying to control. Overall, the change from prior years, we had a little bit less than 2021, but up overall. The reason why we saw these differences was we saw more curly leaf pondweed in 2022, which we did not see in 2021 during the final survey at the end of the year. We also saw more water shield, big leaf pondweed, and leafy pondweed. What we didn't see in 2022, so some of this is good news, we didn't see a lot of blue-green algae, so that's a positive. But one of the negatives associated with that is we did not see coontail. And if you recognize the name of that plant, that was one of the 2 conservative plants that we're looking for the contractor to avoid when they do treatments. It doesn't mean that coontail isn't present in the lake. It just wasn't at those points that we looked at. And as a reminder, coontail is not necessarily a rooted plant, so it can move around in the lake pretty freely. So it's not odd to see it come and go sporadically. So overall, I don't believe that there's any negative change between the last couple of years in terms of species richness. In terms of plant diversity and evenness, now this is where we look at the population, not only the number of species present, but how abundant they are and where they're located. The dotted line is basically the species richness and diversity without the target species. So kind of removing the plants that we're trying to eradicate or control. And you'll see that there is quite a plummet in the diversity and evenness. And what this actually has to do with is we saw an overabundance of bladderwort and bushy pondweed, which are 2 native species. So one of the tricks with or downfalls of diversity and evenness, even if it's a beneficial plant, if there's too much of a beneficial plant, it's still considered a negative. And that's what we're seeing in this result here. So even though they're natives, there's too many of them in relation to all the other species present. And that you do see that on the next table, where I have every plant species that was encountered at the survey points and their relative number of times we have encountered them over the 66 points. So for example, this European naiad, which is a target species we're trying to control, in August 2022, it showed up at 23 sites of the 66 that we stopped and looked at plants. And so you can see that the 2 plants that I just mentioned, a bladderwort, we saw it at 10 additional sites this year. And bushy pondweed, we saw it at 18 additional sites this year. So you can see how that kind of drove the numbers for diversity and evenness. So with that, I'll move on to water quality. So again, we had the volunteers doing water quality evaluations for water clarity. And if I can find this quick enough, and hopefully you're not getting sick with my flipping through this.
Nausea strikes when you least expect it.
So this is Secchi Disk transparency, or the lake water clarity. And the longer the bar means the clearer the water was. So you have the feet in depth over here on the y-axis. So as you go deeper, you can see in May, water clarity was about 9 something feet in the South Basin, a little bit less in the Northern Basin, and the upper Northern Basin was the most turbid or least clarity. And you can see how that changes over the course of the year. And this is a typical pattern that we've seen year after year, where July is probably the least clear of all the months, and June and September are the clearest. So the 5-foot threshold that we have on here, this is where we stop, and if the clarity declines be lower than 5 feet, we'll stop and take a sample to look for algae. We're looking for an overabundance of cyanobacteria. And if that happens, we call the herbicide applicator and we ask them to come and do an algal treatment for cyanobacteria. We did not have to take a sample this year because we maintained great water clarity, and therefore we didn't have to have an algal treatment as well. This is just some in situ measurements. You can read them. There was nothing really alarming over that. This is just the temperature and dissolved oxygen profiles. You can see that it was pretty consistent, which is not throughout the water column. It's not surprising in this lake. This lake is generally pretty shallow and doesn't undergo thermal stratification in much of the area. In terms of nutrient concentrations, again, this is typical of what we've seen in the past. The Northern Basin has The LS1 here has much more phosphorus than the other basins. And what was alarming this particular year is the nitrogen concentrations in July were extremely high. I don't know the reason for this. Sometimes there's issues at the lab, but we had the lab rerun some samples and they came up with similar values. So I am very interested to see what happens this year to see if this nitrogen is still really high. Nitrogen, as you know, comes from obviously point source pollution. It also comes from non-point sources, and it comes from septic systems and other wastes. But there's no way of telling where it's coming from. I'm hoping these kind of level out, and we this next year that this was just an anomaly, and we get more reasonable numbers for nitrogen. So that's kind of all I had to report out on the different factions of the treatment and the status of the water quality and habitat of the lake. We're not proposing any changes to the treatment plan for next year. The herbicide contractor will look to see if there is a need to do the clipper treatment for fanwort. And Joanna, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Dominic will be doing the survey next month and be presenting to you folks that pre-treatment plan. So with that, I'll open it up to questions.
Before questions, Anna, do we have a copy of Wendy's report, and is it on the drive somewhere?
I don't believe so. I don't see it on the drive.
Wendy, I'm confident that you must have sent this to the office.
Yeah, I sent it in the required time frame. I think December 15th, I think, is our required. So I can resend it. That's not a problem.
All right, thank you so much.
No problem.
I
Questions or
apologize.
comments from commissioners?
Mr. Chairman, I have a question for Wendy.
Go ahead, Mary.
I was interested in the nitrogen levels and was curious if there had been any historical surges like that, even if they had not been quite as intense.
Thank you, Mary, for your question. You know, honestly, I looked back when I prepared the report, but I didn't look back again to refresh my memory since December. But I don't believe seeing them as high as 15. They could have, usually once you get over 1 milligrams per liter, you're kind of like thinking, maybe there's something here. So 15 just seems extremely high to me. I have a feeling that this is somewhat of an anomaly, but I will take another look. And when I send the report over to the agent, I will make a comment on what I found historically on that. Unfortunately, I don't have a running graphic here of historic values, but maybe that's something I can add in the next report. Over.
It was just a curiosity question. Thank you for that, Wendy. That's all for me, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mary. Wendy, do I understand that these nitrogen concentrations we're taking in the North Basin where the Catacoulomb comes in?
Correct. Yep. Well, the LS1 is the northern basin, LS2 is the middle basin, and 3 is the southern.
Okay, yeah, all right, thank you. Rich Birch is
Yeah, just to that end, Wendy, did you retake the samples or you just retested the
No.
initial samples?
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. We just had the lab rerun it.
Okay, so I mean, it just could have been a contamination at the time they were taken as well.
Correct. It's funny, I did find something, not saying that this is the reason, but sometimes the bottles, if they get too hot, I think the preservative, the acid is reacting somewhat with the plastic bottles. I have seen that. So we try to get fresh bottles every time we sample, but yeah, that's the only other time I've seen values this high, or if it's stormwater or some sewage leakage. So that's why I think this is extremely high and kind of an outlier. But it's interesting that LS3, the South Basin, did not have elevated levels, so. If it was the bottles, I would suspect all of them would have been the
Yep.
same.
Anything else, Rich?
Nope, thank you. I'm looking forward to reading through it when we get it on the drive.
All right, thank you so much. Yeah, so Anna, when it comes in, can you please actually email it to all the commissioners along with Wendy's commentary?
I will do that.
Thank you so much. Anything else? Then I'd like to thank you for this report, and if we have any follow-up questions, I guess we'll send them, after we've had a chance to review the report carefully. I'm sure we'll send them along by email.
Sounds good. Happy to address any other questions. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. From there, we're going to go on to our new public hearing pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 as amended, in the Town of Lunenburg Wetlands Protection and Municipal Bylaws, a public hearing on a notice of intent by Ashley Owens for the proposed demolition and reconstruction of a single-family home in the existing footprint of 68 Laurel Lane. Could the architect please identify themselves and make their presentation?
Hello, everybody.
I'm Ashley. This is Jamie.
So I will go ahead and share my screen.
And Jamie, are you with a firm?
Yes, we're with a firm called Re-Architect.
Okay,
We are the firm called Re-Architect.
So
all right.
we're licensed architects. We own a firm called Re-Architect that's based out of Air, but this is actually for our house that we're applying.
I now have the full picture. Thank you for
Yes,
explaining that.
We live in Lunenburg now. So this is a permit we submitted. 68 Laurel Lane was split 68 and 68A. It's now been split into two separate lots. So we're dealing with just 68, right? We're dealing with just 68 right now. The house currently is between the 50-foot wetland buffer zone and the 100-foot buffer zone from Lake Whalum. The proposal is to take down the house, leave the existing foundation as it is, and build the house back on top of that existing foundation. We intend to leave the deck that is attached to the rear of the house, and all of the site work is to remain as well. We do propose to remove some trees as we're going up an extra story and some of the trees are in the way. Also, when we have a tree guy come through, we want to inquire about the health of some of the trees. We fear that some of them may be dead or dying and would like to take them down before they take themselves and us down with them. So this is the plan. We do have a civil site plan as well. But this shows the trees that we're proposing to take down within that 100-foot. This is actually the 100-foot line here. So this tree is just outside of it. So there's 3 within the zone that we'd like to take down. And we had the pleasure of having some committee members over on Saturday to take a look at things, take some photos. I also have some photographs. Oh, that is very close. Sorry, everybody. I also have some photographs showing the trees that we propose to take down. So from the water looking back, there's one tree that's just sort of in the middle of the space that we're not sure of the health of it. There's one tree that leans over the house. There's 2 trees that lean over the house. And those are the ones that we'd like to take down. So I'm happy to leave this up or take it down. I don't know what helps with the presentation.
Did you have anything else? Could you make it a little larger? Yeah, a little. Can you make it even a little larger than that?
Sure.
And then recenter it? Thank you so much.
You got it.
Thank you. Any comments or questions from commissioners? Any comments from the people who went on the site visit?
Hi, Mr. Chairman, this is Mary. I do have a question. Do we have this plan on our shared drive?
I see an NOI.
Plan, so we do have the original plan, but they did update it with the trees.
The tree, yes, correct.
But we haven't received the updated, but this is the updated. We do have the original plan.
Yeah, the only difference is the red trees, but I can
Yeah.
send this over, no problem.
Okay,
And
thank you.
Thank you. And
Um,
this is a notice of intent. Do we have a DEP number?
Yes. have a
We
DP.
do.
Yes, I do have a DP number.
Yes.
I
What
have
is
to-
it?
have
I
to
don't
look-
know,
I was
but we
gonna say, I
have
to
one.
Look it up if you need it.
It's
Well, I'm
let's
gonna,
see.
I was gonna say, I submitted that with the application.
I actually have it up. Hold on one moment. It is 208-1293. And DEP had no comments.
all right. No comments. Are there any other comments or questions for, Rich Tremblay?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was just wondering, the trees that are going to be removed, is there a plan submitted to replace them?
No,
No,
Is your
Oh.
intent to replace them?
no,
no.
we are not hurting for trees. Um,
We
and
have,
we've-
we have more trees than almost any lot here.
we've had some issues with some trees coming down of their own accord through some of our
Alright.
structures. So the intention is to not plant trees as close to the house as they currently are.
Could you put the pictures back up, please, that you
Sure.
had on your drive? Thank you.
Once again, sorry, so close.
So looking at the first picture in the upper left-hand corner, the two trees with the X's on them, how far roughly away from the water would you estimate them to be?
They're on the plan, Rich.
I couldn't read the plan. I couldn't read the distances.
So this one is probably
Okay.
about 35 feet.
Okay,
This one's probably about 34 feet. Sorry. And then this one is probably 70 or so. The ones that are closer to the water, we just want to get some an arborist eyes on them to make sure that they're healthy, but we don't want to take them down. They provide pretty nice shade for our patio.
okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mary Wilson.
Yeah, I had some more questions as it turns out, so thank you. Going back to the plan that is annotated with the trees, it wasn't really clear to me, where are you measuring the 30-foot from? It almost looks like it's halfway out the dock.
So the dock is down here. So we are using, we actually have a civil site plan as well back here. So our 50-foot line and our 100-foot line were delineated by a civil engineer. So we are using those lines as, I presume, were measured from the high water mark, or wherever they count from the lake. So this 100-foot line here, I don't know if you can see my mouse tracing it, on our plan is right here. So it sort of hugs the back of the house.
Mm-hmm.
And then in our model, in our model, we were actually able to figure out exactly where that 100 feet came off of. And that's the lake, and the dock is down here. There's stairs down. There's a bunch of ledge and stairs down to the dock.
Mm-hmm.
And then the 50-foot line is right where the edge of the deck is.
Okay, so in reality, you measured 50 off of the 100-foot reference drawing, and then
Yes.
80 off of the 100-foot reference. Or,
Yes.
I'm sorry,
yeah,
70.
we trusted the civil engineer to tell us where that line was and then measured off of that. Correct.
Okay, because I was, and I did have the benefit of being out there, right? And I was trying to reconcile what looked like the 30-foot reference off of where, I observed and my photos showed the water to be, which, seems to be like much closer to your lower patio than what seems to be drawn there. Okay, but I understand what you did.
Okay.
And so that answers my question.
Great.
Yeah,
Are there any other comments or questions from members of the commission? Are
yes,
there
one
any
comment that I would make, Mr. Chairman.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
Sorry, I'm a little not real coherent tonight, just rambling, but those two trees that are marked in red that are closest to the water line that are right just past the 30, I did not happen to observe damage to those. So I mean, just me as a single vote on the commission, though, I would be more inclined to wait to hear from an arborist before I would want to see anything done to those.
Okay. What would be the process for that? Would we submit a report generated by an arborist to the commission and have another meeting, or just, I don't know what the other option would be.
How does that work?
Yeah, how does that work?
Mr. Chairman, since I'm one of the newer members of the commission, I think that I would look to your guidance on that.
And I'm gonna actually call on Richard Birch, because he has his hand up, and see what he has to say about that comment before he asks, about that question, before he makes his asks his question and makes his comments.
When were you looking to start construction?
As soon
As
as we
soon
can
as
get through the
possible.
permit.
Okay. I mean, we can hold our decision on the trees pending review of the arborist's report, that the trees do indeed need to come out because they are damaged or diseased.
Okay.
And
So procedurally, Rich, how could we do that, unless we're just gonna unless we're gonna continue the hearing and ask them to have the arborist come before the next meeting.
so probably the easiest, the cleanest way to do it is if we so are inclined to approve the permit without taking the trees down, they can resubmit for field change, taking the trees out.
I love that suggestion.
Okay. So
Anything else, Rich? Anything else, Richard?
Yeah, so my questions going back were, number one, I don't see any erosion protection. I do see you have a limit of work. I would maybe recommend somewhere in that area to put hay bales and silt fence as a limit of work and a erosion protection down to the lake.
Okay. Probably at the 50-foot line.
Yeah, where you already had an extent of proposed work, there's no reason that I could see not to put it there, or the 50-foot.
Okay.
Usually
I'm thinking
we
beyond the
like to
deck.
see it at the limit of work.
Okay.
Is the foundation, unfortunately, I didn't get to go on a sidewalk. Is the foundation a slab or a full basement?
It's a
crawl space.
Yeah, it's
Crawl
about
space.
5 feet, 6 feet deep.
Okay, so it's just frost walls with a crawl space?
Basically, it's also a large part of ledge. Our structural engineer has come through and done his review for us.
Okay. I see you removing an oil barrel. Where are you removing it to?
It's
The
going
dump.
away. Yeah.
We are
Okay.
switching to all electric.
Okay, so you're not gonna have a oil tank on site after
Nope.
construction. Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. Those are my two questions.
Thank you, Rich, and thank you so much for that suggestion.
So is the was the suggestion basically the build part of it is okay. It's just that you would like us, once we talk to the arborist, to have a second presentation regarding
Well,
the trees.
Here's what we're gonna do, okay?
Okay.
If, I mean, absent any objection, I would expect be entertain a motion to approve this NOI shortly. And if it was voted in the affirmative, but it be without the removal of the trees, and that you'd have to come back and request a field change, for the removal of the trees. At which we have some members of the commission. We have a regulation that requires replacement of trees within 30 feet.
Yep.
We have some members of the commission who like to see trees replaced even if they're not within 30 feet of the of the resource area. And so, I mean, that then could become a discussion point, in a future meeting, or some members of the commission would be saying, well, would you like to replace these trees? Where would you like to put them? Blah, blah, blah.
Okay,
All right.
that makes
Are there
sense.
any
Thank you.
comments or questions from members of the public? All two of you.
I think it's just us.
Okay. No, there's somebody named Josh on.
Kidding.
Therefore, I am looking for a motion to approve this NOI with the condition that the removal of the trees between the 30 and the 50 is not approved at this time. And that there be erosion protection
Yes.
at the limit of work.
So moved.
Second,
Roll call, Rich,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Mary,
aye.
Richard,
Aye.
and I for myself. Do you have any questions?
I don't think so.
No, I think that was clear. So the 30 and the 50, we'll get an arborist out and we'll chat about those trees and see you soon.
Well, we'll only see you soon if you want to take the trees down.
Gotcha.
Okay, if you don't want to take the trees down, then there's no need to ever come back and grace us with your presence again.
Excellent.
Sounds good. All right.
All right.
Have a
thank
good
you.
night.
You too.
Thank you.
A continued public hearing pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 is amended, Town of Lunenburg Wetlands Protection and Municipal Bylaws, a public hearing on a notice of intent by Lunenburg Skate Park Incorporated for the proposed construction of a skate park and drainage basin at 100 Chestnut Street, DEP number 2081290. Anna, are we continuing this?
Yes, Greg Roy reached out and he has requested a continuance to our June 7th meeting.
So I'm looking for a motion to continue this until June 7th.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All right, roll call, Rich,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Mary,
Aye.
Richard,
Aye.
and I for myself. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section, start again. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 is amended. The Town of Lunenburg Wetland Protection and Municipal Bylaws, a public hearing on a notice of intent by Thomas and Melanie Payne for the proposed construction of 3 replacement retaining walls, a replacement patio, and a set of replacement stone stairs at 647 Reservoir Road, DEP number 2081289. Are we continuing this, Anna?
Yes, so Matt Mara reached out and requested a continuance to our June 7th meeting.
So I'm looking for a motion to continue.
So move.
So
So moved.
moved.
Second.
We have a couple of motions and seconds. Roll call, Rich,
Aye.
okay, Mike,
Aye.
Mary,
Aye.
Richard,
Aye.
I for myself. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 is amended. The Town of Lunenburg Wetland Protection and Municipal Bylaws, a public meeting on a request for determination of applicability by Lisa and Jeffrey Richard for the proposed installation of a deck at 52 Spring Street Extension. Is there anyone here for that application?
I will be representing the applicants for they're not able to make it to the meeting tonight. And I have notified them about the previous occurrence, the last meeting, since I was unable to attend. I don't think they were notified, maybe. Anyway, they have requested me to represent. I will try to do that to my best, of my ability. I'm going to share my screen. Before I do that, unfortunately, there was a mistake in the narrative or the description of the hearing, and it says installation of a deck. I obviously didn't notice that last meeting, but now I'm noticing it's actually a dock.
Okay,
So one letter off. Okay, so I'm just going to pretty much share their site plan, just their dimensions pretty much of the dock. And also I'll go back just to give the dock example. This is not obviously the dock that is there. This is just the type that they want to be put in. And I will go back to the dimensions on this property. This is just what was submitted. If you wanted a better overlay of the property, I have it also open on Near Map as well. But
yeah, let's take a look at the near map.
yeah,
I'm
okay,
speaking for myself.
yes. It's very convenient. Let's see. I think that's it. Yeah, okay. So this is the property here, if you can see my screen. And then actually they also own this property behind across the street. That's where they probably load their boat, but this is the property that they're proposing to have a dock. It looks like the abutters, their dock kind of like goes over onto their property. But other than that, this is the parcel that is proposing a dock, a new dock. There is no existing dock there.
Any questions or comments from commissioners? Any
I
cast-
have a question.
Go ahead, Mary.
I think Anna said, and I may have misheard, that there's no existing dock there. But we're looking at an existing dock, right?
So this dock here that's like on the property line, I don't believe it's not the property owner's dock.
Oh,
It's
okay.
the neighbors. It's just they're on the other person's property.
So the,
They don't own a dock. They don't have a dock that they use.
okay.
And if you notice, you know, the overlay on these aerials is often off a little, and you'll notice that the property line is like, looks like 2 feet short of the fence at the high side of the picture.
Mhm.
Well spotted.
So if you were to slide the whole lot, you know, polygon, you know, up a little, then that dock wouldn't, you know, be in the
Yeah.
lot. But
Yeah.
but that's all conjecture.
Yeah.
Anna,
Yes.
do we know where they're gonna put this dock in on the property, where they intend to extend it into the water?
I believe down at these, it looks like a slope where these steps are
Okay, thank you.
in here.
Any other questions or comments from commissioners? Any questions or comments from the member of the public here? I'm looking for a motion for a negative determination.
I'd make a motion for a negative determination upon receiving confirmation that the dock near the property line is not on the 52 Spring Street Extension property and does not belong to the owner.
I love that motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
A motion and a second, roll call, Rich,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Mary,
Aye.
Richard,
Hi,
and I for myself. That brings us to new business. First item of new business is the master plan committee. Richard, you weren't here at the last meeting. Would you be interested in serving on the master plan committee? It's gonna have like 15, it's a steering committee. They don't actually get a vote. It's like a 2-year commitment of once a month meetings. And there'll be subcommittees and they'll be working on the master plan for 2 years. Do you have any interest? Nobody else had any interest last meeting.
Are you asking me or?
I am asking you. Yeah, Rich Birch, I'm sorry.
Uh,
That's right. We do have 2 Richards, I forget.
yeah, I suppose I could throw my name in.
Oh, that would be wonderful.
Will they be Zoom also, hybrid meetings?
I don't know. Matt Allison is not a fan of Zoom, so I'm kind of skeptical.
Okay, well, I will appear when I can.
Thank you, and I will be putting my 2 cents in about how we need more commercial development in this town, but other than that. Thank you. Lessons learned wetland delineation, lot 5, Northfield Road. I was driving down Northfield Road and I look over and I see what looked to me to be a large intermittent stream flowing within like 10 feet of the edge of a foundation there, a brand new house foundation. And I remembered that I remembered that participating in that hearing, at least the second part of it. And Anna, I asked you to research it, and what did you find, Anna?
So from what I've seen, like in the minutes, the previous minutes in regards to property, it's just from what you have found as well. Mary Ann DePinto just claims that they're technically not wetlands. So that's that's the most I have found from it, and like with all the plans and submittal and the minutes kind of corresponding with that, because I know before she had made that claim, the commission had discussed like there needs to be a definite survey from a wetland scientist saying whether or not it is wetlands or not. So that's as much as I have found in regards to that.
Thank you. You know, there's certainly a lot of water there. And Mary Wilson pointed out that if you're taking a look at a connecting wetlands map, GIS map, it appears as though it connects to wetlands.
That's Mr. Chairman, sorry to interrupt. That's actually the Mass Department of Environmental Protection Mass Mapper resource. That is the map of wetlands. It's where that shows up as a connector between an upstream and a downstream wetland.
And it was originally said that it wasn't a wetlands by I believe by Matt Murrow, and then I believe they asked Mary Ann DePinto, who I have a lot of respect for, to also come in and say wasn't a wetlands. Rich, do you have any insight into why that wouldn't have been a wetlands?
Well, unfortunately, I did stop out there and I wasn't able to do a soil sample, which is the #1 way to tell. There is sporadic wetland and facultative wet plants throughout that basin. Given the amount of water that is clearly still flowing through there, given the fact that we haven't had rain in a fairly long period and April was drier than average, I would surmise that it is clearly an intermittent stream. And under our bylaw is considered a resource area.
And that, and I agree with that. I mean, we did approve it. We did get. I'm looking for lessons learned here. What could we do differently in the future?
Looking at it, we'd have to take more than just the one lot into consideration. So it's clearly a hydrological contact between the wetlands on the south side of Northfield and the north side of Northfield. And it's just not something that I guess we took into consideration when we were looking at the site. And
Yeah,
there was no water flowing at the time, unfortunately, without knowing if Mary Ann did a core sample or not to see if they were hydric soils. Actually, if you go out there today, there's still a fairly high water table. They have a detention basin out in the front of that house that has water in the bottom at just about the level of the that intermittent stream.
Yeah,
So it's just a matter of taking a look at more than just the one small project and trying to look at a larger picture of how the wetlands are interconnected.
and I love your suggestion about lessons learned about requiring a soil sample. Soil samples, not just wetlands plants. And I'd also love to see a requirement that that map that Mary has, that be submitted, as part of the as part of the application.
Agreed. Yeah, I mean, it does clearly show the hydrologic connections between the two wetlands and as they flow down. Because they have, when I'm walking out through there, they have disturbed just about up to the edge of the that intermittent stream.
Yeah. Well,
So I have a couple of questions.
Go ahead.
Again, being, the newbie here, right? And was certainly very, very new when this came up as a topic, and had the benefit of walking out there, right, and seeing the stream, and walking with then our administrator Nadia. And I think I was, on that walk that Nadia said that the previous administrator, Matt, had done a soil sample and determined it wasn't a wetland. But, I was also taking the all those intro to our fundamentals of conservation commissioners classes then that were, kind of going through some of these online resources that are available, right? And so actually kind of brought that up in a meeting, but the hearing was continued. And I think a couple of times it was continued. But I thought I had heard that Nadia had gone out there and tested it again. I mean, done a soil sample again, but it sounds like that wasn't captured in the meeting minutes. If in fact my memory is correct, it just wasn't a captured data point.
well, but what was captured is that Mary Ann DePinto, stated it wasn't a wetlands, and
Mm-hmm.
I'd be
Well,
amazed.
just to clarify, an intermittent stream isn't necessarily a wetland
Yeah,
because it is dry a portion of the year.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think under the DEP regulations, it's considered a resource area, but under the Lunenburg bylaw and regulation, intermittent streams are considered a resource area. And hence we can protect them and implement our buffer zones to them.
That's interesting because one of the recent submittals Matt Morrow is representing and doing some work for some homeowners, and the topic of this came up, right? And I happened to ask him if he remembered some history on this, and he was all over it. One of the things that he had said though was that even though it shows up on the DEP wetlands map, if it doesn't show up on the USGS resource map, then it's not a protected resource. But I didn't have the wherewithal to ask him about the municipal bylaws.
Yeah, and then another really good point is that aren't wetlands, but they are entitled to the 100, the 50, and the 30-foot buffer protection are vernal pools under the Lunenburg bylaw and regulation. So vernal pools aren't wetlands. They don't have generally wetland species and they don't have hydric soils, but they're still considered a resource area.
And would that be vernal pools that show up on the state map, or would that be anything that we determine as a vernal pool?
It would have to be certified
Hmm,
as
okay.
a vernal pool. We can't assume that it's a vernal pool without going through the process of getting it certified.
I don't think there are a lot of those types of resources in Lunenburg. There's some, but not a lot.
There was a group that was down Sunset Lane that was trying to certify a bunch of vernal pools
In Rob's Hill.
in Robb's Hill, and there, I believe out on Howard Street, there was a gentleman at one time had gone around certifying a bunch because he thought that they were going to make a Western version of Logan Airport in Lunenburg. So we tried to get those all certified as well. So
Yeah,
there are a bunch.
they haven't showed up on this map. I was just looking for it. I'm still kind of a plotter. So I have to click a lot of things to get to the vernal pool layer.
So there is one actually on 150, the other side of the property, but on Holman.
Right, yeah.
There's a certified vernal pool there. Let's see. There's one up by Marshall Park. I'm just looking over to see how they did down at Lake Shirley. They had.
Are you
Oh,
looking
there
at
you
the
go.
map, Rich?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Could you share? Because I would love to be reminded of where I get that layer.
Let me just blow this up here. So this was Robb's Hill. So they have updated it because these are all the vernal pools that they got certified in Robb's Hill. So it's National Heritage.
NHESP, yeah, okay, got it.
So the easiest way to do it, Mary?
Mhm.
Search.
Oh, I love that.
And I would just say, I know from
Up here, there's
going
a
there
bunch.
on a weekly basis, that there are a ton of vernal pools on in the large town forest and the Lane property, but I don't know how many of them are certified.
See, not many of them,
Yeah,
not
hardly
many.
any.
right?
Well, and it is quite a process. It's a year-long process to get them certified.
Well, but we have a lot of gung-ho volunteers in this town, I've found. You
Yahoo.
know, and if we were to put out a call for people, I'm sure we would get volunteers.
Mhm.
That
But
may
that-
be a worthy endeavor,
Yeah, 'cause
honestly.
that's a very crunchy granola kind of thing to do. So. Well, does anybody see any, I don't see any, regulations, that we need to change or anything here, unless somebody has a suggestion. I think it's more a matter of, educating us as a commission, you know, about what we're gonna look for in the future.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Topics unknown, I'm gonna move on then. Topics unknown 48 hours in advance. I just got a email like 2 days ago, or maybe even yesterday, from Elaine Peterson. We have two people who are up for whose terms are expiring, Rich Birch and Katie Childs. Katie Childs has not requested to be reappointed. Rich Birch has requested. We have two applicants for two other applicants in addition to Rich. that have submitted their applications. I'm proposing tonight that I'm requesting tonight that the remaining members of the commission, other than Rich, take a vote to authorize me to write a letter of recommendation enthusiastically recommending Richard for reappointment. I view Richard as absolutely crucial to, you know, to this commission. And I'm hoping someone would make such a motion.
So moved.
Second,
second,
Roll call, Mike,
aye,
Mary,
Aye.
Richard,
aye.
I for myself.
Well,
And
thank you for the kind words, Bob. I appreciate that and everybody's support.
And speaking for myself, I am going to write a letter of endorsement for the application of Chris St. Germain. You know, we also have Sam Welsh. You know, I've spent some time in the woods with Sam. He helped me out some. He attended our meetings for a while. And then he dropped off. In speaking with him, it's my personal opinion that his interest would be better served by being on the Open Space Committee. But that's between him and the Board of Selectmen, because we don't make those decisions. The Board of Selectmen make those decisions. But I personally am going to write a letter endorsing Chris St. Germain. And if anybody else wants to write any such letter, you know, you know, endorsing either one, I urge you to do so. And I will share with everyone the letter I write in support of Richard. I don't suppose there's any grant application updates. On the encroachment, I have a meeting, and also on Hollis Road. I have a meeting with the town attorney next Monday on the 22nd, whatever date that is. I think it's Monday. At 12:20 at the library. Anybody else who wants to come is welcome to. We're gonna discuss, he still hasn't given me a draft of the letter for Chase Road. He hasn't given me a draft of the letter for the Hollis lease agreement, you know, documentation of you know, of ours. And I'm also gonna be talking to him. I think I copied you guys on my request to Heather Lemieux to take and be able to talk with our tax attorney. I sent a letter asking, you know, for my, you know, her permission for me to talk to the tax attorney. She told me, oh, I don't think it's necessary. You know, the tax collector will respond. And, you know, so then we get a response from Mylene, who says, because over a year ago, it's been over a year ago, I went to Mylene and said, oh, we want these properties. You know, we want these properties. We want these two properties that are up off of Page Street, because they'll give us access to the properties, these rear properties that are Conservation Commission properties. We want that property that's the swamp in the middle of, not that it really matters that much, but there's a piece of swamp in the middle of the Cowdrey that really should be conservation land. And there's also 250 Howard Rear. And now she tells me a year later, after we took in, we had, if you're taking a look in this year's, you know, tax lien thing, you know, she filed a tax lien on the 2 Howard Street properties. I'm not I'm sorry, the 2 Page Street properties. But like, what's the point if we needed to have a, you know, a title search? Which is why, but at any rate, I think now we've got the answers we need. So I'll be talking with the town attorney about, you know, getting a title search done on these 3 properties so we can go through the tax title process properly. Any update on maintenance work at Hollis? Any questions about that or comments? Mike LaRouche, any update on Hollis Road maintenance?
Yes, I met with the facilities director, Chris Ruth, at Hollis Road, and we looked at the cabinets, we looked at the carpet replacement and talked about perhaps getting the house painted, and there are a few siding repairs that need to get done. And Chris was a great resource. He said he had painters, he had carpenters that he could employ to get some of these projects done. He gave me the go-ahead to get Acme carpet to do the bedroom that had been requested by the tenant, and in fact, that was done today.
Wow, what a
And
difference.
really, and he just said, you know, anything under 10,000, we don't really need any major permission. But just to keep him in the loop. So he approved Acme coming in today, and he said, just have them send the invoice to Anna, and Anna should know what to do with the invoices.
That is wonderful news, Mike. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Administrative determinations. Do you want to take us through these two administrative determinations, Anna, please?
Yes, I will be sharing my screen. Hold on. Okay, so first administrative determination is for 17 Horizon Island Road. This applicant just has one tree that is next, well, in their house or next to their house. It is within the 30-foot no touch. Sorry, I'm just gonna be scrolling through just so I can get a good reference of the tree. This tree is heavily damaged, mostly on the inside, both pileated woodpecker and carpenter ant damage. The homeowner is very open to replanting, obviously, because it's within the, it's probably like 25 to 30, or even less actually, to the water. But she just wants this one tree removed because it's possible when it, if it were to fall, it might take out this tree as well. The top of the crowns are kind of touching, but other than that, she is open to replanting this tree and would like it removed for safety concerns.
Any questions or comments from commissioners? Seeing none, I'm looking for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Mr. Chair,
Go, absolutely, Mike, go ahead.
I just want to make sure if it does get approved and taken down, can we make sure there's no pileated woodpecker in it
No.
when that is taken down? Okay. That's just my-
Absolutely, that would be my concern as well.
All right, thank you.
Oh, wait, Mary has her hand up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If we're approving this and it's within the 25, I think we ought to stipulate that it is replaced according to our schedule of
Well,
2 for
then why
1.
don't you make a motion, Mary?
I would make a motion that we approve this with the condition that the replacement of 2 native hardwoods are installed or planted on the property within the 30-foot.
So moved?
Second.
And I just got a text message from Rich Tremblay that he lost his internet connection. So we'll do a roll call. Rich,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Mary,
Aye.
I for myself. Hopefully Rich can log back in. How about 38 Oak Ridge?
Okay, so This is for 38 Oak Ridge. Again, I'm probably gonna scroll through some of the photos. This is proposed for 2 trees. And this one is directly up against this person's foundation. This is the looking out to the water, and here on the very edge, the left side of the picture is that tree. It's just outside the 30. This is just the picture of the crown of the different tree. Sorry, the pictures are kind of out of order. This is a horrible glare on this picture, but this tree, which I'm surprised wasn't originally removed, but when this house was probably built, it might have been small, it would have been a smaller tree. But this tree is growing pretty much and expanding into that foundation. If it were to fall, it's going to take the foundation with it pretty much. So the homeowner would like that tree removed.
Holy mackerel.
Yeah. And then this is the crown of the other tree that the property owner would like to have removed. Not that one. This is another possible cluster of trees, but that's outside the buffer. I can get to, this is the other tree that they would like removed. That is just outside or right on pretty much the 50. This is the one who has a lot of crown damage to it. And a few of the branches have fallen onto the house. But these are the 2 trees. Well, this is a multi-stem, I believe, but since it's larger, it would account for pretty much 2 trees. These trees to be removed on the property. Since the tree that's next to the house it's like right on, it's like outside the 30. And I did explain to the property owner that, you know, the commission might suggest a replanting of sorts. I will note that would not be any room to replace that tree right there, obviously. So if need be, they could replant further out from that location possibly, but a lot of that is patio area. But I'll leave that open for the commission. But yeah, the tree next to the house to be removed, and that other one I showed, that's like a multi-stem tree to be removed.
Comments or questions from commissioners?
Mr. Chairman, what was this address again? I lost track.
38 Oak Ridge.
38 Oak Ridge. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was just going to go look at the foliage map there.
Hello, Mr. Chairman, I'm back via telephone. I've lost all internet at the house.
I'm sorry to hear that. Thank you for coming back by telephone.
Yes, sir.
In your absence, we approved a administrative determination at 17 Horizon Island, and we're now considering the removal of 2 trees at 38 Oak Ridge.
Okay, thank you.
One of them is stabbed smack up against the house, probably within 30 feet of the lake, but it's right against the house, and there's not a lot of room to replant right there. And then the other 2 is almost outside the other one is a dual stem, and it's almost outside the 50, but not quite. And this is a pregnant pause looking for comments from the commission. And
I would make a motion.
Mary was gonna look at near map, I think.
Well, I looked at the Mass Interactive, which has kind of not as good satellite photos, but you can get some decent and quick flashbacks of several years of the foliage there. I would make a motion that we approve both, and that the tree that is at 30 be replaced with some blueberry bushes. 2 blueberry bushes.
Do we have a second for Mary's motion?
Second,
Roll call, Rich,
Aye.
Mike,
aye.
Mary,
Aye.
Richard,
Aye.
and I for myself. I don't think we have any extension requests, certificates of compliance, or notice of project change. I don't think there's anything new on either of those enforcements, although what is the status of our non-NON at 205 Sunset, their application, Anna?
So there is an update on that lot. So they received the plans and everything from Dillis and Roy, and they will be submitting not for our June 7th, but the June 20, I think it's 21st.
21st.
Yeah. So they're submitting for that.
Super.
Yes.
I'm about to reach out on open space and land use. I'm about to reach out to Bill Bernard and ask him if they found the money for Howard Street driveway with end of the year. I'm expecting he's probably going to tell me no. At that point, I'm going to go political and ask to be put on the agenda of the select board meeting and ask the select board to come up with the money. I'm hoping with this dry weather that our loggers can get into the Reno property. I'm looking for, I think I copied you guys on a request to Unitil for used utility poles. All of our present bridges in this, and there are quite a few, I believe every single one of them is built on used utility poles. And in the past, and also I believe that every single bridge we have was built by the Lunenburg Snow Riders. And they would get their utility poles by going up to the DPW yard and taking them from there. But right now there are no utility poles in the DPW yard. And so we're going to need utility poles to beef up within the next 2 years to beef up the bridge at the Hunting Hill so they can safely drive a tractor over it. And we're going to need utility poles 3 years from now or 2 years from now if we're going to take and build a bridge over the Mulpus Brook by the Harold Harley Wildlife Viewing Platform. And so I reached out to Unitil. Unitil is actually would love to give us some old utility poles because then they don't have to worry about getting rid of them. But they need me to sign a release, and so I'm looking for someone to make a motion to authorize me to sign the Unitil release.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, Rich,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Mary,
Aye.
Richard,
Aye.
and I for myself. Committee reports. Oh, Mr. Chairman of the Rich, are you down to the chairman of the Stormwater Committee?
I haven't been officially advised, but I think so, yeah.
Holy mackerel, that's, I don't know if I want to congratulate you or give you my condolences.
Okay.
Well, thank you for stepping up. Thank you. And anything from the Open Space Committee, Mary?
Nothing from the Open Space Committee.
Okay. Any communications or public comments at the end?
I have a question real quick.
Go ahead.
So I had an email inquiry from Karen Menard for the Park Commission in regards to a tree donation. There's a resident that wants to donate and plant a tree at Town Beach. It'd be pretty much a native cultivar of like a red maple. I was just curious, how do we usually proceed with that in regards to someone wanting to donate and plant a tree? Obviously on town beach and right next to the resource area.
I will go to our resident expert, Rich Birch. Would that require an RDA, or is that, I think if it was a native tree, they could probably do it with an exemption, but as a, if it's an exotic, I think they need an RDA. Rich, am I right in that, or am I wrong, or?
Yeah, as long as it's a native and it's hand dug. If they're using equipment, then they'd have to file an RDA, but I believe there's an exclusion for hand digging in our regulations.
Okay, and it is technically native. It's a red maple. It's just a cultivar, which just means they made the leaves a little bit brighter of a color, but it is a red maple that they're choosing to donate.
What cultivar is it, Anna?
Let's see. We go back to the email. It's the Frank's Red Sunset Maple.
Okay, actually, I think a Frank's Red is a cross, if I'm not mistaken, between a silver maple and Acer rubrum.
There's because I'm looking at because she sent a picture of like the nursery yards tag. It is Acer rubrum for the Red Sunset Maple, and then the other one that they were thinking of was the Freeman Maple, the Acer rubrum and the silver, and it was called the Autumn Blaze Maple. That's the cross. Just from the nursery tags, it says the Red Sunset Maple is Acer rubrum, which is the red maple.
So Anna, I suggest you advise them that they should use the one that's native if they want to avoid an RDA.
Okay, yep, I'll definitely tell them that, and then as well as the hand digging instead of.
Yep.
equipment. Thank you.
Before we left, I meant to mention this before. I just wanted to mention to everybody, we were talking about intermittent streams before. And there were criteria for intermittent streams, one of which, does it appear on a USGS map? But there's another one that talks about, does it have a watershed of, I believe it's a half square mile? And there's an amazing tool called United States Geological Survey Stream Stats. And you can pick a spot on any stream and it will delineate the watershed and show you in map the watershed for the water flowing to that one spot and calculate the area of the watershed and everything else. And it's a really valuable tool. And I urge you all take a look at that Stream Stats.
Mr. Chairman, it was Stream Stats?
Stream Stats, yes, USGS Stream Stats.
Oh, cool.
It is really, really cool. You have to take, first it gives you like a map of the United States, and then you got to zero in on Massachusetts and tell it you want the Massachusetts map. But then you take and you click on any stream anywhere, and it'll delineate the watershed and give you all kinds of information about the watershed and what the maximum stream flow is likely to be, and all this other stuff. So
Did you happen to look at our intermittent stream in question?
I have not, but I would be highly skeptical that it would have a perennial stream. If something's a perennial stream, I think it needs a
I think it's a
watershed
1
greater-
mile.
I'm sorry, Rich, what is it?
I think it's a 1 mile square watershed.
I thought it was 0.5, but I could be wrong. I'm making it up. So, and I'm an old guy who's with a faulty memory. So, Mike LaRouche.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I just wanted to give a shout out to John Jones. Speaking of hunting hills, he spotted some bobolinks in that patch of grassland that we've been looking at. And it looks like they are finally here, and he produced some great pictures, as I'm sure you may have seen.
Yes, really, I should forward all those emails on to the entire commission for their enjoyment. John is an amazing bird photographer. He's Ken Jones's dad, for those of you know who Ken Jones, and he's been going up there, and also, by the way, he went up and finished installing the last "You Are Here" trail signs today. Up there, so at Hunting Hills. So, and I was out today on the Lane property, working on putting chains on the bridges so they don't get washed downstream during the spring floods in the future. So, anyway, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn. Or first of all, I was gonna ask who Josh was, but he dropped off. All right. Looking for motion to adjourn.
So
So
moved.
moved.
All right,
Second.
roll call. Rich,
All right.
Mike,
Aye.
Mary,
Aye.
Richard,
Aye.
I for myself. Good night, everyone.
Good
night.
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 At
All right, good night.
8:28. That's
Thank
not
you.
bad.
That's excellent. Excellent work.